Nothing to do with what's
Well, that lady.
Okay, so
Let's not continue to mitigate this disaster. Let's just make sure that we have this flexible RUB, something that can be changed.
We'll have Nirvana.
Very good. Very good, Councillor Quince.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move in addendum
Yeah, you just
Very good.
clarify
Huge
the
contribution.
situation on
Very
Waiheke
good.
Island, because this council needs to
Councillor
clarify.
Lee, stop, just a minute. I've actually got your proposal here, so I was going to get to that once we've gone through the list of those who have got prior speaking rights. Councillors, my hope is that everyone will get these speeches off their chests on this particular issue. They have been speeches that have been relitigated with no one much changing their position really over the last 6 years, and I suspect it'll be over the next 16 or 60 years. The speeches will be the same. And everyone will use data and statistics to affirm or otherwise their views in this matter. So we'll spend a bit of time now listening to these, and if anyone else wants to jump in and remind us all, hang on just a minute, if everyone wants to, this is your chance to actually have your say in this matter, because I don't want to repeat any more down the track. So I've got Councillor John Watson, and then I've got Councillor Penny H. Is anyone else? Councillor Sharon. And Councillor Penny. So Councillor Penny,
Mr.
W
Chair,
first. Yes.
Can I ask, are we looking at all the issues on this, or just B?
No, we are just at this one at
B.
Yep,
okay.
B. But we
They're all
are
interwoven though, aren't they?
well. Yeah, just hang on.
Yeah, I know.
Yep, I know. I'm just getting to you, Councillor George.
Well, you
So
said-
I'm just listening to all the other pieces of advice that I'm getting around the room.
Any advice
So
from
no,
you?
I know you're not. You're
Oh,
asking
no.
for my view generally.
Yes, yes.
And so what I'm suggesting to you is this is the right place to talk about the rural-urban boundary, the MUL, all of those issues that we, sort of discussed in particular at the start, the Auckland plan,
Yeah.
and then at the front end of all this. So if you want to have a say on this, generally, then we might as well have that say now. So the batting order I've got here is John Watson, Penny H, Penny W, and Sharon.
And myself.
And Mike again, yes.
And
George? Okay.
George, yeah.
Okay.
Point of order.
Madam Chair, yes.
Point of order.
Oh, Councillor Dick.
I understood that we're working under the standing orders
Yes.
of the governing body. And I don't know why Councillor Lee would then be entitled to speak twice.
Can I respond to that?
Asking a question.
I propose
No,
to
Councillor
move,
Mike.
I propose to move an addendum.
Councillor Mike. No,
he
you
may
don't
be,
need to.
He may be frightened that I'll rebut him.
Councillor Mike, I'm just
He'll have to
writing.
put
that-
up with that.
He's got information on
You'll have to
falling
put
house
up with
prices.
Order, please. Councillor Dick, I always appreciate your advice on the standing orders, but it's not necessary on this occasion. Councillor Mike is merely suggesting an alternate resolution which I'm going to deal with when we come to the matter of voting. All right? So, Councillor Mike, I don't really need to hear from you until that time. Right, now we've got Councillor John Watson. Sorry to interrupt you, Councillor John.
That's all right. Not so much an eloquent speech as more of a question in respect of the rural-urban boundary as it goes to Okura. I'm assuming it's not appropriate to bring that up here, but when it comes up at 6.14, and there'll be no repercussions for
Specific.
that debate.
No, we've got
That's
that.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, there'll be specific ones. Yeah, cool. We're talking here the generic policy. All right? Councillor Penny H.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually agree with some of the points that have been made, and strangely I find myself agreeing with the now new rural member from Riverhead that some of this does need to be looked at in conjunction with the possible changes to countryside living and all of those issues. And I do agree that, I'm a strong supporter of the rural-urban boundary, and I've always supported the idea of urban containment and compact city, and I'm very relieved to see that some remnants of rural-urban boundary / MUL survive in the plan. However, I have to agree with some of the points that for cities that were trying to deal sensibly with their needs, that we ended up spending millions and millions and millions of ratepayer dollars battling unnecessarily for a decade, the MUL, to try and do decent things for our people, and we don't ever need to go back to those bad old days. But I think what we need to hold together here is the interrelated nature of all of these bits of information. And when we get on to 6.7.1, we actually talk about the prohibited activity of subdivision in some of these rural areas, and I think it's holding all the pieces of the puzzle together. So whilst this might move from one level to a slightly lower level, in response to the very good questions from Councillor Cooper, the protection that we require still remains. And I guess what am I doing? I'm just asking for clarification in the way that we will communicate this out there before we are barraged with concerns about the death by 1,000 cuts to the Waitakere Ranges, that we are barraged with people suddenly thinking they can subdivide in the rural area, and we're barraged with excitement from Phil Twyford thinking we've suddenly got rid of the rural-urban boundary, which we haven't. So I think this is more, what we need here is the connection between all of these decisions and the way that we translate it out to our community in a joined-up way. Because dealing with all the recommendations separately, we're inclined to lose track of the big picture. So, Mr Mayor, I think at the end of this discussion, a sensible piece of communication about how all these bits fit together will be needed.
Very good. Councillor Penny W.
Well, some of what I was going to say has been said. I think the concern I've got when we start talking about developers and the property council is if, they're the evil people in the room. We have got Hobsonville, we have got Millwater, we have some, and I don't know how much Flatbush costs, but I agree with Councillor Hulse. The MUL cost our ratepayers a heap of money, trying to get opportunities, lost opportunities because we couldn't do things quickly enough, and we were just very lucky that some of those developers hung in for as long as they did and stayed around and produced really good development. And for example, where the Snow Planet is in Orewa, we were trying to put an entertainment zone on that area because we had someone who wanted to come up and build a whole heap of stuff like Rainbow's End, which would have been fantastic for that area of Auckland. We could not get the MUL moved, and that guy walked off. That was a loss of opportunity because of that. If it was at this level, we would have been able to do something quickly and actually manage to jobs and opportunities for people. So, we have to remember that for about 10 or 20 years, or probably 15 years, we were tied to trying to move anything for people who wanted to move into our areas. And I agree with everything that Councillor Quack said, Councillor Hulse and all my other colleagues on this. And this is a really good piece of and sensible move. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Sharon.
Very good.
Thank you. I think most of it's actually been said, but I just feel encouraged as well that with the panel's view, and I just in defence of my fellow councillor Dick Quacks, he does have a little handle on the homeless, because I'm very proud of him. He actually goes out many nights with his family and they feed the homeless, so I just want to make sure that is reported. So, but I like Councillor Hulse and Wax and Brower and Webster and others, very happy with this recommendation. Thank you.
All right, Councillor George.
Well, Mr Mayor, I'm actually looking at these, but I'm also looking at C, which is this one that the staff are saying reject, do not support.
We haven't got there yet.
Oh, well, I thought.
You were so far ahead of us, Councillor
No, well,
George.
I've got some ideas on that. Look, I support.
Sure you have.
I support this up here. I'm not going to waste any more time on this. And then on C, I've got some important information to disseminate to the rest of the council.
We wait with bated breath,
I think
Councillor George.
I'll be very interested.
Right. Councillor Cathy.
Oh,
Just to correct my colleague, Councillor Quacks across the room, homelessness, rather rough sleeping on Queen Street, has not been caused by this council and its citing of the metropolitan urban limit or the rural urban boundary. It's not this council's fault that we've got people sleeping rough across the city. It is the fault of successive governments who have failed to
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
acknowledge, to count, to legislate
Point of order.
for, to plan for,
hang on.
or to
Councillor Quacks
resource
did not
Listen
mention
to the truth.
homelessness in
homelessness
both Auckland
in Queen
and New
Street. Rough
Zealand.
sleeping in Queen Street was not
a
mentioned.
fault
It's a
that-
misrepresentation of his argument.
Councillor, thank
Listen
you
to
very
the
much.
truth for once.
Flying to the defence of Councillor
It was
Quacks.
the ARC.
It's beautiful. Right.
Well, you didn't correct
It
her.
was the ARC's
well, no,
fault.
that's
Queen
right.
Street,
The truth.
Queen
Councillor Kev,
Street
you
rough
finished?
sleeping was not mentioned.
Yep, I think that was
ARC's
it.
fault.
He did mention it. He said rough sleepers on Queen Street,
I
Okay.
said Hobson Street.
Hobson Street.
You want to listen,
Stick to
Kathy?
what you know.
You might learn something.
Okay.
Stick to
You
what you
might
know.
learn something, Kathy.
Right, now, that's it. Now, Councillor Mike has indicated something that he would like to put. And Councillor Mike, this is the way I'd like to deal with it, if that's okay, because I actually see it as a direct negative. Because the officers, in their recommendation, are clearly saying that the issue of the boundary, the rub in Waiheke Island is dealt with to a satisfactory level. What you're saying is, Mike would like us to put, the council supports the unitary plan panel's decision on retaining the existing RUB on Waiheke Island until the Hauraki Gulf Islands District Plan is reviewed. And that sort of sits opposite what the panel are saying.
No, it's not.
Sorry, what our...
Absolutely not.
It sits opposite what our officers are saying. So that's, look, that's the way that I read this. Penny?
I can only reiterate what I've said earlier, that the maps that we've received as the recommended version of the planning maps from the panel do not have a
Second it.
RUB, a rub on Waiheke Island, and in our reading of the reports by the panel, they are clearly saying that there should be no rural-urban boundary as a regional policy statement method, and that the location of a rural-urban boundary on Waiheke should be considered when the Hauraki Gulf Islands District Plan is brought into the unitary plan, district plan provisions.
That's basically what you're asking for, Mike, here, and that's what the officers are saying they're doing.
No, they are not. They are disappearing
No, they're not.
the RUB on Waiheke, whereas the panel is saying, within this context, the panel considers any changes to the rural-urban boundary, including disappearing it, on Waiheke Island, are best left to a district plan review for the Hauraki Gulf Islands, at which time such possible changes, including disappearing it, can be considered in the wider context of other district plan issues. That's what the panel said. Now, Ms Perrott may disagree with that, but I think it's wrong for us to misrepresent what Judge Kirkpatrick is advising us.
Councillor Lee, I don't think that's the case at all. I actually think that what the council officers are proposing covers exactly what your concern is. And so I want to put that, and if there is if the councillors around the table disagree with that, then I'll have yours, and I'll put yours as an alternate, all right? But as I read it at the moment, this issue is covered within the existing recommendations.
No, it's not.
It is. So, look, that's okay, we agree to
The
get... and I'll
MUL
use-
disappears
Yeah,
in
look,
these recommendations.
Councillor Lee, if I
You
thought
get-
that
it
was
will
going to
cause
happen, I
chaos.
wouldn't support
It will
it.
cause chaos, and it will also bring the unitary plan into disrepute on Waiheke at least, in
Councillor Lee,
terms of the process.
It won't.
And it'll go to the Environment Court.
Okay.
You better believe it.
Right, thank you. Right, we move on to item C.
So in terms of the next, next two items within this topic report, C and D, this is a situation where, in terms of the report that the panel has talked about, where they indicate they support the Quality Compact City, and if you read their report on capacity, they talk about they have been looking at how you achieve more capacity in the existing urban area as opposed to elsewhere. they have recommended in C that they delete policies and objectives that were in the notified version that had a direct reference to the 60-70 and the 30-40 split between the existing urban area and new growth areas. Officers accept that actually referring to 70-40 is probably not a helpful thing to refer to, but what we believe needs to be put into the plan if we are going to manage in an appropriate way private plan changes and non-complying activities on the edge is a reference to the fact that we should be looking to contain most of the growth within the existing urban areas. So that's reinserting that, and if you want to see the actual wording of that suggestion, it's on page 172 of your agenda, where we are recommending an objective that says urban growth is primarily focusing on the metropolitan area 2010 as identified in Appendix 1A. So that's just